Hey everyone, welcome to Reading the Green and our Golf DFS podcast. My name is Mike, joined with Kyle and Jordan on Tuesday, April 26th. We have our Zurich recap and preview for the Mexico Open. That's right, the Mexico Open. That is an actual golf tournament that's on the PGA Tour this year, so we'll get to that in the second half. Just real quick before we jump in, if you're watching this on YouTube, we are starting to get some video out there, so please subscribe. We really appreciate it. That's how we know we're making some traction in this. Even if you just listen to the podcast, head out onto YouTube and subscribe to our video. We'll keep on improving that every week. But guys, so last week when we signed off, I think the first thing that each of you said after we cut off the recording was, the Mexico Open?
I had not looked ahead, so when you ended, with the little tease on where we were going next, it surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, this is it's going to be interesting. I know we'll talk a bunch about it in the second half, but a lot of new names, a new spot for the PGA Tour. So I don't know, one of those weeks that we have to get a curveball every now and then. But anyways, let me ask this question. I know, Kyle, you want to talk a little bit about some kind of overall trends around DFS and betting, but I want to ask this question before we do that. There's been this animal rights chicken protest going on around the Memphis Grizzlies Timberwolves series, and I know we're not going to talk about that, the basketball. This is an NBA podcast, but people are storming the court to draw awareness to chicken rights. This is a farm in Iowa that apparently Glenn Taylor has some ownership in, where like 5 million chickens have died in the last several weeks. The video is, you should see it. You can look it up on like Barstool. Like, this woman rushed the court in game 4 and she was tackled within 3 seconds. The second that she got up out of her chair, a security guard tackled her. So this is what I want to ask. What would you guys storm a field of play for? Chicken rights?
So I'll give Jordan a second to think. So I had heard about the storming, but hadn't really read into it. So my location, a little different this week, if you can't tell. I'm actually in Iowa, and I'm pretty sure that said chicken farm is only about 12 miles from my location. So I did not know that part of the story. I need to do some reading, apparently. All right, Jordan,
big deal.
I try to buy you some time. You got something good, right? What do you got?
I think the only thing I would do it for is money.
What if
I don't care enough about anything else that's going to be that bad, like worth
maybe a kid or lots of money.
Well, on that note, money. I mean, what if they outlawed sports betting or daily fantasy?
Maybe that might do it. I might run across 18 at the Masters for that.
And a jock.
Yeah. My green jacket on my green jacket Speedo.
I wasn't talking about streaking. I just was talking about running on the field.
Yeah, that's where we went with it.
Yeah. But look at this now. We just gave 3 minutes of airtime to this cause that everyone's gonna. So this woman she's completed her mission. She might end up in jail for a little bit, but she's completed her mission.
I mean, anyways. we all knew Glenn Taylor was a crotchety old man. Has been terrible for the Timberwolves for what he's owned them for 25, 30 years. Cheap ass. Like, anyone surprised that he killed 5 million chickens? Not at all. I'm surprised it wasn't 5 million humans.
Okay, that's a hot take. All right, Kyle, you had some notes that you wanted to share around just sort of the psychology of golf betting these days. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so caught a little bit of the Pat Mayo betting pod on Monday, and him and Jeff Feinberg were having a good discussion around just valuing players from a generational perspective. And specifically for, I would say, most people our generation who kind of made our foray into golf sports betting at the same time. Does people that have been around the block for a little bit, do we overvalue that generation of players, such as a Rory McIlroy or Dustin Johnson, who maybe we are at a similar age in life to us, who we've kind of grown up in the betting world with, and maybe perhaps even undervalue the younger generation of players. Because when you look week in, week out, if you look at betting odds, for example, for the upcoming PGA, a guy like DJ, for example, and I know we want to talk a little bit more about DJ later, he's at the same price point as some other guys that have won more recently, like Patrick Cantlay, for example, or even on the, going even to, younger than that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a really great point, and I would imagine like I think what it's getting at obviously is that the majority of the DFS and betting community is probably in their 30s and 40s, and so these are, like you said, the same generation of players that match up with the people that are putting money on them. It's tough with someone like DJ whose ceiling just still seems to be so high, and so no one is surprised by these numbers that are being put out. I mean, compare that to someone like Patrick Reed. Like, I don't think we ever thought that Patrick Reed's ceiling is as high as DJ's. And so I feel like the numbers DJ is getting is reflective of his ceiling, but it's not really it's certainly not reflective of his form. I just think it's tough to see all of a sudden start seeing DJ priced at 8,200 in DraftKings, or, 20 to 1 or 30 to 1. Like, that might not ever happen. But it's a good point though. Like, and I think maybe the casual players are helping push that because of the name recognition. Mm-hmm. But I would imagine that most of the experts are seeing past that. Like, I don't know that I've played DJ in a lineup in like weeks outside of a showdown, maybe even this whole season.
But so two things there, Mike. One, were those cocaine jokes at DJ's expense? There's a lot of high talk in there.
I don't know. Let's save that for the wedding, the wedding details, because I'm sure there was plenty of that going around.
Yes. The other one. So regular betting, right? They put people at certain numbers so that you bet them, right? And then it goes. If a lot of people bet them, it goes up. DFS is supposed, I would presume, is fairer in that this is the likelihood that they have to win. So I'm going to put them at $8,700. Like, they shouldn't build in pricing into
you don't have a house
recognition, but it seems like they do.
Well, yeah, you look at Tiger at the Masters.
Yeah.
You don't have a house. You're right. You don't have a house, so you're not trying to move money around. You also don't have the ability to change salaries. At least in DraftKings, when those salaries are set on Monday afternoon, like, they don't change leading up to the event. So,
it's a good, very valid points at DraftKings. Because what incentive do they have to misprice somebody? It's just, if you look at Victor Hovland, for example, granted he hasn't won a major, but he's won 4 events, and granted some are not on the PGA Tour, but in his last 9 starts, I believe. Mm-hmm. DJ hasn't won since when? The Masters in 2020?
Which is crazy, because I looked it up recently. I think it had been like 400 days, and DJ had that streak where he had won every year of his career until last year. I don't think he won last year. So, yeah, he's clearly he's not the same commodity that he was before. I don't know. I guess it's reflective of his ceiling just still being higher than most, but.
Yeah, and his one Masters was the weird Masters also.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I agree in general. His ceiling is higher, and especially we're mainly talking about DJ here, but like throw Rory out as part of that conversation. We saw we can do still Sunday the Masters. So I don't think either of those guys are sailing off into the sunset yet. It's just, I found the conversation interesting, especially as you're doing a build for maybe a major in the future. Just something to heat check yourself on.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. All right. Well, I don't think we're going to have to worry about betting either of those guys this week in Mexico, or really any of the the strong names in their 30s. But we're going to be.
Speaking of DJ, I know Somebody wants to talk more about that.
I think we all do, but I'll be honest, I tried to do a little more research on what exactly went on this weekend, and apparently they didn't allow phones at the Johnson Gretzky wedding. And so there really isn't much from like a paparazzi standpoint that you can dig up. There are a lot of pictures of Paulina and what she was wearing or not wearing.
Yeah. I made the joke with some friends that her wedding dress was skimpier than my wife's lingerie. Like
apparently they got married at Blackberry Farm outside of Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
It's about what we know. Kid Rock was there. He played something for them. And that's I couldn't even get a list of like who were. I know Kyle, you made the joke about like, did he pull half the tour away from the Zurich Classic to go to this wedding? I couldn't even find like a list of celebrities that were there.
So alternative thought to that. What if he committed, say, last year, say somebody's like, hey, next year we wanna play in the Zurich Classic, DJ in. But yeah, I'm game. You're my partner. And then all of a sudden, like 4 weeks ago, did somebody get that text? They're like, oh, sorry, bro, I'm getting married.
Yeah, you know who got that text? Scotty Scheffler.
Oh, Scotty.
That's how he ended up with Ryan Palmer.
No. So apparently I read something that Ryan Palmer said that these guys asked him to play. Rahm asked Palmer to play. Scheffler asked Palmer to play. And these guys are coming to him. And he's like, that's my brand.
You know what it is? They look at the alphabetical order list, right? Palmer, Rahm, Palmer, Scheffler, like they're probably right next to each other. They just, the guys look at their own name and see that.
I don't think there's any rationale.
Enough of the Zurich. Who was not at the golf tournament that would have been at the wedding? Like my thoughts were right. Schauffele.
His best buddy Brooks.
Brooksy was probably there. Like,
I don't know who else DJ is like friends with, but other than Brooks, whether he's not friends with him, I don't know the exact status of their relationship. But I'm guessing Brooks was there.
Did anyone like go through Brooks's Instagram and in his girl? I don't know. They share a lot, right? Like
they do. I'm telling you, they didn't allow phones. Anyways, let's move on. Let's do a quick check-in on beers in the first half here. I have my in-laws were nice enough to leave some beer behind this weekend as they were at our house, and so I have a Blackstack Water Pipes, just a DDH IPA. It's pretty good. I haven't bought a lot of Blackstack recently, so enjoying this.
As I said, different locale for this week and future weeks, but I have limited options down here. I have Big Grove Brewery, Easy Eddy, Juicy IPA. It's about the best thing I've found down in these parts so far. About to open another one.
I think, Kyle, you need to only drink beer that's on that back wall during the pod from now on.
Ooh.
Bud, I think I see Schlitz. I think you could really get after
quite the collection of 1950 to 1970 beer trays.
Yeah.
It's a great room. It's a great backdrop.
Yes.
Jordan, what do you got?
I am with Fair State, all of us IPA.
I like that one.
Yep, it's good. Good looking can too.
That's the East meets West one, right? Kind of like a little bit of both versions.
Progressive blend of the classic and the cutting edge. Light haze, polite bitterness, blasted with our favorite hops.
Perfect. Yeah, that was a good one. All right, let's talk about the Zurich Classic a little bit. I think there's a couple good storylines here. I think first of all, we talked a little bit about how this is like the match play. It's really the only like alternative format event other than the match play on the PGA Tour, and people seem to generally like it. However, like the match play, you watch this event because it's different, and then it never feels quite right. Like, I don't know what it was about this event, but I was like, the alternate shot is very exciting, but it also takes a lot of the momentum out of the tournament. And on a course that's this easy, the best ball is very anticlimactic. I mean, Xander and Cantlay shooting 59 and 60. It was just like, it was cool once, but then they did it again. And it was kind of boring. So I don't know. I don't know what you do to make this tournament good. I love the team format. I love seeing these guys pair up with their buddies, but it just doesn't keep my attention for 4 days.
You gotta go off the wall, right? Like, do 8-9 hole matches, or right, like do something interesting.
Like,
do like a member guest, right? Where it's 5 9-hole matches and then a shootout on Sunday where they play. Or like that would be interesting, and I would love
think you're
that.
Right. They asked during the match play, Rahm was in a presser and he made a comment. Someone asked him, like, do you want to see more formats, alternative formats? And, like, what are the games you guys play, when you're off that we could take to the PGA Tour? And he's like, what are we going to do? Play Wolf? And so, like, I get it. Like, not every game that you play on the weekend at your club is suited for PGA Tour, but something can make it a little more dynamic. Kyle.
I like it. It's just, I think the schedule is a little challenging, right? We just had the match play, and then we get the Masters, and so you're drawing people back into golf for the year, those that don't bet on it every week, and then we kind of got a couple dubs in a row. So like an event like this in October or November would probably hit a little bit better, in my opinion.
Yeah, it would be a good off-season tournament. But I would like to see a scramble.
Why not do like
Thursday best ball, Friday alternate shot, Saturday scramble, Sunday alternate shot again? Like scramble, I would love to see these guys play a scramble. Just what would they shoot? 50?
If you're gonna go do something different, go all out. I
exactly
embrace that. Yeah.
There's I know that we play in things that are like a 6-6-6 where it's like 6 holes of both balls, 6 holes of best ball, and 6 holes of scramble. They could do that. There's a format called shipwreck where certain holes count certain number of balls, and so you could have like a 4-person team. There's lots of stuff they could do. I don't know if like the general public will get it as much, but the takeaway was I like the change of pace. It didn't hold my attention the whole weekend. Yeah. But anyways, I think the best players ended up playing really well. It was kind of a coin flip between Cantlay and Schauffele and Morikawa and Hovland being the stacked teams. So they, certainly the best came out on top. I joked that Scheffler might have been able to win this tournament on his own. That was a dumb comment because that was not the case. He was not going to shoot a 59 to 60 on his own in those two rounds. The Scheffler and Palmer duo probably ended up where they should have. I think they finished top 10 or close to it, but they weren't going to challenge. I don't know they had enough out of Palmer to really chase down the big guns. But
yeah, but it's my hot take: big names win this tournament.
Yeah,
right. The people that you expect to win it are gonna win it.
Yeah,
it's not gonna be
even if Horschel. Yeah, even if Horschel and Burns pulled it off, you wouldn't have been surprised. Those guys have been playing great this year too.
Yep. No, and speaking of Horschel and Burns, they were the top of the model from a mission share standpoint. So strong finish there, coming in second.
Yeah. With our listener league, Jordan, boy, on fire. You back up your second place last week after you got nipped. You back it up with a first. How did you do it this week? Name one player that took you all the way.
Jimmy Skins. I don't even remember his first name. What was it?
David Skins.
David Skins. After all the comments last week and how we talked about Dick Bland, and then I didn't pick Dick Bland, I had to go with Mr. Skins this time, and they make the cut. Mm-hmm. They scared me. They had to par the 18 on Friday to make the cut. And then they did it.
Who was David Skins' partner in this event?
Ooh, Michael Four. Wasn't it?
Doesn't even know.
Let's just let that lie, Mike. Let's just let that lie for now.
All right. Well, we'll come back to that. Just hang on to that now.
Wait, did you get why I said Michael Four, Mike?
I did.
Oh,
I did.
I knew Kyle got it. I couldn't tell. You held it together pretty well.
I did. So anyways, G Bentley 0117 finishes in second, and Arano WM12 finishes in third. Kyle, how's it? We got to have a talk.
Okay, so Mike, right now in the video, I need you to flash the bottom 5 in the listener league.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's have a talk.
I don't have a problem with it.
Here's the problem I have is that I put my whole set of lineups together, and I look at the RTG listener league and I say I want to do something a little different. I want to pick some guys that maybe we didn't talk about on the pod and aren't shown in our model because I feel like the rest of the group will be off of them, and it is just backfiring week after week. I just need to go with the guys I think are going to be good. That's it. I just need to do that.
Yeah, I've had a couple rough weeks as well. I don't go with a full pivot using the RTG lineup. I'll go with a couple guys that we've talked about. Hey, we've talked about them. I'll put them in my lineup. But I always go off the beaten path with one or two, and they just have not worked out. Recently,
should have gone David Skins.
I went Harry Higgs this week. We're talking about, hey, who would you like to play with? I'm like, well, Harry Higgs likes to drink some beer. Sure, he'll be fun in a team event. Picked him. That didn't work.
Yeah.
Well, let's round out. David Skins' partner's last name was Taran. One of those. Yeah.
One of them.
Yep.
You made it. I
would like to say that I beat you guys by 200 points this week.
So
I could have had another 2 people miss the cut and still beat you.
Last comment on lineup performance. I cashed in every lineup I had this week except for reading the green. So yeah, went a little bit too off the beaten path there. Maybe I'll bring in a little bit more this week.
I look forward to not finishing in last place in that.
But hey, if I'm gonna lose one, reading the green is the one I'm okay losing.
I want, you know what? It is an investment in our listeners to be able to offer these winnings. So that is positive.
I'm gonna take their money.
Well, yeah, that's right. We're all just giving it to Jordan.
Yeah. Just Venmo me, guys. No need to enter the thing this week.
Some of Jordan's picks here on the pod, they're just trying to throw you guys off. He's a shark.
He backed it up. Couple more stats to round things out. So Cantley and Schauffele finish off the event -29. That was right with a 59 and a 60 in the 2 best ball days. They were our top model performance. 22% mentioned, 76 on the power index. So right there for the taking as one of the 10K plays. And our top expert this week was Jason Sobel. It had been a while since he's nailed one. He was one of our stronger contributors last year and has been a little quieter, but this year this week he came through with Xander and Cantlay, and then Doc Redman and Sam Ryder finishing in 3rd place as well. So he got a 1st place and a 3rd place finish in the field. Certainly would have led to well-performing lineups had we started there. But nice to see him back with some solid plays, and hopefully we see that trend going forward. So with that, guys, any more comments on the Zurich? Otherwise, we'll take a quick break and talk about Mexico.
I think we can finally get Jordan out of New Orleans now and move on.
All right, we'll do that. We'll break real quick, come back, talk about the Mexico Open. Hey everyone, welcome back. We have our Mexico Open preview. Remember, you can play golf DFS with Reading the Green every week in our listener league. That link will be available on Twitter on Wednesday, so make sure you click that, join the league, and enter the contest before Thursday morning. Looking forward to getting a few more folks into our league. All right, the Mexico Open at Vedanta Golf Course in Nueva Vallarta, Mexico. This is a new course, new tournament for the PGA Tour. The Mexico Open has been around a while. I think it's had a stay on pretty much every worldwide tour, the European Tour, the Latin America Tour, has had stops in Mexico as the Mexico Open, but not on the PGA Tour yet. And so this will be new, hence why we had no idea really what this tournament was. But we're kind of back to some amount of normalcy. Top 65 in ties making the cut. Field strength is poor, but I think that's maybe to be expected in some of these new nondescript events. But that's all right. I think, Kyle, as we talked about, you can have fun in these weaker field events. You get an opportunity to play guys you don't normally play, get to know them a little bit, and sometimes you start playing some of those guys, and you're going to see them pop up, 3-4 weeks from now.
Yeah, I kind of like it. It's a little different, from in the 7K range, for example. You can click a guy, maybe you've heard his name on the Corn Ferry Tour, instead of trying to play Patrick Reed, who is, by the way, like $10,000 this week.
Well, that's the other problem. You're right, is that you get guys because of the name recognition, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, because of the name recognition, get priced really high, and that's just a trap. I mean, that is, I don't know if it's intentional by DK, but like that's a trap, because those guys, like Patrick Reed, hasn't been playing well, and there's no reason not to go take someone like, Austin Smotherman, who's been having a pretty decent year, and you're going to get him in the 7,000 range. So
let's put it this way. We have 78 guys that have been mentioned so far between our 30 plus experts. Patrick Reed does not have one mention.
Yeah, that is a trap. So
but how does Tony Finau have so many mentions?
Because I think he's going to play well.
For the last year, we've been thinking he's going to play well.
Hey, his form actually has been coming around. He had a pretty strong stretch last year, burned us a little bit in the fall season, I think, and early the spring, but he's been okay lately.
Okay.
All right, Kyle. So why don't you hit us with the top of the model? I think it'll be surprising and also not that surprising.
Yeah. So there's 4 people that are really rising to the top, and when it comes to the price point these guys are at and who it is, I don't think you're going to be surprised one bit. John Rahm leading the way, 60% mention share. Gary Woodland coming in at 43% mention share. Aaron Wise at 39%, and Tony Finau also at 39%. So you have 4 guys there. So Rahm is 11,300, Woodland and Wise in the 9K range, and then Finau 10.4. And Mike and I were talking about this a little bit in our prep, that it seems to be the prevailing wisdom in our experts this week is that you kind of got to look at those 4 and pick who your 2 horses are, and then try to differentiate yourself lower down the board. Because most people seem to think this week the 8K range doesn't add a lot of value for $8,000. In the 6K range, there's value there, but it doesn't have a whole lot to offer. So it seems to be the prevailing wisdom is pick 2 of those guys and then build out your lineup with 4 guys in the 7K, because there's a lot in that area getting love as well. Mike already threw out Austin Smotherman, but there's definitely some other ones that we'll talk about as part of our picks.
It's actually interesting, Kyle. You made the comment around the 8K range being pretty forgettable. And if you look at our model and you start working your way down, you have to go down 12 players, mention share wise, before you get to your first $8,000 player. In that case, Charles Howell. In fact, in the next guy, Doug
Gim.
Who is
that player?
Doug Gim, though, 8,900. So you talk about like where the value is. Like, I don't know that I'm paying 8,900 for Doug Gim when I have a number of $7,000 or $7,000 players that are rating out a little higher.
Yeah, and we don't know a lot about this course. It's the thought is it's going to be good for long hitters. Fairly open from what we know. It's a pretty long course overall. So even those guys in the 8K range that have been playing well, such as CH3 and Doug Gim to an extent, they're not great course fits. So I think that's kind of how you've created this little bit of separation, is there's guys maybe in that 7K range that either have not been playing the greatest, but are a good fit for this type of course. And that's why they're rising over maybe some of those 8K guys.
Do we, slight tangent here, we all need to watch The Shark and talk about it sometime. Have you guys,
I did watch the first 10 minutes.
Okay, we need to, that'll be in a future pod, but this course was designed by Greg Norman. That's where, tying it back in.
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to finishing that. It's going to be a lot. I mean, now that you got us on a tangent, but like you talk, and actually, Kyle, going back to the generational comment, and this is actually, I think, really interesting. And I don't know if you guys know the answer. How many weeks was Greg Norman the number one player in the world consecutively? How many weeks? Take a guess.
I don't know.
150.
331. It's like 7 years that he was the number one player in the world, and he fit in this spot between really Jack Nicklaus coming down and before Tiger coming up. So this is like late 80s, early 90s, which is before our generation really got into golf. And so like you just kind of forget that Greg Norman, like for our parents, he was like the guy for so long.
All the clothes that he had at all the golf shops, the Shark,
the golf balls and stuff. Like, it was he was great at marketing himself.
You look him up on Wikipedia. He's referred to as a Australian entrepreneur, not a golfer, an Australian entrepreneur. And he has just obviously tons of business investments. So I am really looking forward to finishing that, because I think he's a player that obviously I think he's certainly playing the villain role right now with the Live Tour. For those of us that are generally supportive of the PGA Tour. But I just so much there to like learn about this guy that I think will be really interesting.
So is this course's next stop going to be a Live Tour event?
Who knows? He's got a lot of golf courses, I think, but yeah. So anyways, so Kyle, why don't you hit us with your 3 plays this week and where you're going to be starting your builds?
Yeah, so as I talked about, you kind of got to pick one of those 4. And I think especially for cash games, Gary Woodland's going to be my guy. 40% mention share, but Pat Mayo is on him. Pat James is on him. Betspurs is on him. So some of the ones that I give a little bit more weight to and have been doing well in our model, especially on the Pat Mayo side of things. And he does come with a little bit of a price break, relative to Rahm and Finau. So it can keep you out of going into that 6K range at 9,900. So I, especially on the cash game side, I'm starting there. And then, like I said, we're going to have a lot of exposure in the 7K range this week. I'm going Austin Smotherman. He was 36% mention share. Brendan Gadula from Number Fire is on him. So I haven't told you guys this yet, but I did end up taking an outright this week, and that was on Austin Smotherman.
All right, so I can cheer for that.
Dabbling in, so hopefully he's in contention, so at least I can hedge it a little bit on Sunday. And then my third play is going even further down the board to create some value. Somebody, I maybe even like a little bit more than our model is Tyler Duncan. Had a good showing last week, 22% mention share. DK cheat sheets on him, Pat James is on him, but digging in a little bit more, he did miss the cut of the Valero Open. He was hot garbage there. But outside of that, he's made 4 of the 5 last made cuts. And when he makes the cut, he doesn't just make the cut. He's been 12th, 28th, 25th, and 35th. So there's a lot of top 30 equity at a 7K price point.
So he's either top 30 or bottom 60.
What more do you want?
4 top 30s in there, including a 12th at 7K. I'll take that upside.
I was expecting Tim Duncan's brother to be better at golf, but
he finally got longer clubs, and now it's helping out.
That's good. That's good.
I like Tony Finau this week. I think he's getting an appropriate amount of love. It feels like a time to come back and reunite with a guy that has been, he's been off for a little bit, but like Kyle, you said, his form has been has been improving, and if you got to pick one of your anchors, I think we might be able to get him a little bit of an ownership break and not have to jump all the way up to Jon Rahm, who I think, Rahm is going to get the attention this week because even at 11-3, I think one of you guys joked about it before we did the prep, but like you would have thought he would have been 12K this week, maybe even higher. Like I know they don't normally price above 12K, but just given how much better he is in the field, you almost think that he's a slam dunk for a top 5, and I am not. I don't need to eat that right now. Like he's just as likely in my book to miss the cut and have a nice weekend in Nuevo Vallarta than he is to want to play all 4 days.
I can see that.
I'm probably going to have some exposure to Rahm because just relative to the field, he offers so much, but I'm definitely not going to take him across the board.
Yeah. The one guy, this is a little bit deeper take, but looking at our experts, and if you believe that Sobel has turned it around, he likes a gentleman named Patrick Flavin. And Patrick has done, another guy we say, like Tyler Duncan, who says when he's made cuts, he's making cuts and he's finishing in the top 30. And so if you're going to take a guy at 6,500, why not take a guy that has a potential to finish high if he makes the cut? And he doesn't just have one mention. He's also backed up by Rick Gehman in his Golf Digest article, which isn't one of our better ones, but I'm trusting that Sobel here has got things figured out, coming off a hot week last week and giving us Patrick Flavin. And then the third pick, I'm kind of in a toss-up right now on whether or not I like Munoz or Matt Jones. McClure has been really hot. He has Munoz as one of his 2 picks. Fowler's been really hot for us. He has Jones as one of his 3 picks. I feel like there's some opportunity there. The only problem is that Jones kind of fits that low 9,000s, which I think is the beware area. And Munoz is coming in at 9,800. And I have a tough time believing Sebastian Munoz at 9,800. That feels like a major overprice when I could be taking Woodland, Wise, Cameron Tringali, and probably get a lot safer play if I'm going to spend up. So Munoz might not be able to fit that profile for me.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up, Mike. I think there's been a lot of airplay this week on the Mexico connection. Answer I think would be getting a lot more love if he didn't have the hurt, some of the withdrawals lately. But Munoz, I think people are talking about him because it's a Mexico event.
Is he's Colombian or Venezuelan? Colombian.
I guess, not in the States, right? And
yeah.
Spanish speaking country and those type of things. I think it's being overplayed. That angle
it does.
Yeah.
Feel a bit like a trap there.
Yeah, and I do like Matt Jones from maybe on a GPP standpoint, not on a cash, but I think there's some value there.
Good take. Now, Jordan, we got a huge field of a bunch of no-namers. So I got to imagine you can find someone that sticks out to you that's gonna.
My picks have all been great lately, Mike. I don't know what you're talking about, but I do have
they have Mexico.
A quiz question for you guys. What is the highest DraftKings salary Kevin Na has ever had?
Oh God, I don't know.
8,800.
I don't know either, but it's at 10,100 this week, which is total crap.
Yeah, especially that. Talk about course stats. I don't think Kevin Na would be it.
You're gonna spend 10 grand on Kevin Na? Get out of here.
Nah.
Yeah.
Well, Jordan,
I'm taking it seriously, Mike. This week, very serious.
Right.
I'm gonna pound that $7,500 range. I'm gonna have a lot of Nate Lashley, Wyndham Clark, and Aaron Rodgers.
I think that's
so.
My second time on Aaron.
Patrick.
Patrick. My second time on Patrick Rodgers.
And so he didn't just break up with Shailene Woodley? Patrick, Aaron.
No, no. Well, I think Shailene broke up with Aaron for Patrick, which is why he's playing better now.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Pat Mayo is with you on Wyndham Clark there. So I do think
I saw that. He had a very high mention power. The other person that's super high that I clicked on just by looking at the numbers, I was like, wait, I'm not paying $8,400 for Charles Howell. Like I like to do mine off of mention power for reading the green to like talk about the pod other than a few randoms, but I'm not touching Charles Howell at that price.
Jordan, I did want to get your take on one player that had a little love this week. Is Callum Tarrant. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah, that's Mr. Skins' partner from last week. I can't remember his first name, but
Callum.
We knew you had no idea who that was.
No idea.
Even though he carried your boy to an RTG listener contest.
No one carries Mr. Skins.
So
well,
one other name on the. Go ahead, Jordan.
I was gonna say if I had to go with someone this week, the name of the week is Kramer Hickok.
That's a big name.
I've never heard of him. No idea who he is, but he's 7,200, so he must be a legitimate golfer.
I've definitely played some Kramer Hickok before.
I'm not surprised that you've played some Hickok, Kyle.
In my DraftKings lineup, sure, and I have.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Mike, I did want to ask you about, because you seem to know some of the deeper golfers that Jordan and I might not. Our highest, most of the contributors that we follow do say stay away from the 6K range unless you're just dabbling in maybe a sprinkle. But there is a guy popping up at 18% mention share at 6,500. Scott Gutschewski.
Mm-hmm.
I do not know.
So this is the guy that I think Jordan was
talked
saying
about him.
Yeah, that you had like randomly played, and that I think you were confusing him with Steve Guttenberg. I think.
Or Steve Wojciechowski, one of the two.
Yeah, well, Scott actually, I mean, I don't actually know his journey. He's older. He's like in his mid 40s. And so I think he's somebody that is kind of like hung around, played like some PGA events, a lot of mini tour, nationwide, web.com, that kind of stuff. And I think I'm just confirming he did come through and got his PGA Tour card last year through the Korn Ferry Tour. So you can see, this is actually what's really interesting about professional golf and why it's so different than any other professional sport or most professional sports, is that you can have these careers that just peak at such different times. And so here's a guy that's getting his tour card for this year at age 45 after playing on the Korn Ferry Tour. Like, it's not a bunch of recent college grads. And I even saw there was a social media clip at some point in the last several months with someone who had just got their Champions Tour card. And I don't know anything about this guy, but he was very emotional. This was the first time he made a full season for professional tour, and he was in his 50s. And so you could imagine that this could have been someone that has been like grinding at this, or even if they maybe would have chose it as like a late life endeavor. But like professional golf can be like in lots of different stages of life, and that's not the case. Playing hoops. You don't see 50-year-olds crying on the court because they just made the NBA. Like it's pretty cool. And so Scott is probably having the season of his life here, since he hasn't had status in like 15, 16, 17 years.
Yeah, so I put you on the spot there. So I will read so he has 4 mentions. One of the mentions he has is from Coach Esser on Twitter, Dennis Esser. I'll read his little blurbs, give a little backup. So he comes into this week 30th in stroke gains on approach, 18th in strokes gained tee to green over the last 24 rounds. Made the cut in Puerto Rico and at Putacana. Followed that up with a top 20 at the Valero Texas Open. Not a bad run of form to gamble on at this low price, $6,500.
Yeah, I pulled up his season, missed his first 4 cuts in the new year, then made 3. Actually, he made the AT&T and then he had to pull out. That sucks. Withdrew. Playing
so
well.
at 6,500, you make a cut. That's all you're asking that guy to do is earn you 4 days worth of points. So
yeah, heck yeah.
I like that. Kyle, thoughts on tiers?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a little heads up here too, because I actually kind of want to talk about 2. So I'm gonna talk about tier 3. Mike or Jordan, one of you guys take a look at tier 6 here to give you a little bit of thoughts there. So tier 3 is a very tough decision in my book. Right at the top of the board, you have Gary Woodland coming at 43% mention share, but then you have Aaron Wise, 39% mention share. We've kind of glazed over Mr. Wise so far, who is someone I've been pretty vocal about on this pod. Coming into the season, I was very high on him. And some of the early events, I played him a lot, and he burned me. I think if you want to make a compelling GPP lineup this week, we mentioned he's one of those top 4 guys that's probably going to carry some mention share, but he's a good place to look. But on a cash game basis and a tiers cash, I will be staying away from him, and I will take Gary Woodland.
All right, so now Jordan and I get to handle tier 6.
What is?
I can do this. Well, we have a couple of guys that are at the top of our model, both share wise and MPI wise, and that's Austin Smotherman and Wyndham Clark. So I think either of those 2 guys in tier 6 are a pretty good play. I think if you want to go a little deeper and look for a bit of an edge, we're on Paspalum greens this week in Mexico, very similar to Bermuda. And there's a Bermuda specialist sticking out in tier 6, and that's Patrick Rogers, who I know Jordan has been a huge fan of since he retired from the Green Bay Packers. So I kind of think Patrick Rogers offers a little bit of a pivot, but Smotherman and Clark are 2 guys that are up in our model, so that would also be decent plays.
It's going to be an interesting week with tiers with so many no names, right? This isn't like you're getting Justin Thomas in tier 3 or whatever it was. The Masters, you could have 3 or 4 tiers of top characters. Here you're digging deep on all of them.
Can I skip tier 4? Like, I think that's the one where I want none of those guys. We kind of hammered on Howell and Gim, and then the 8K range kind of sucking. So you get Griffin, Aaron Rye, Carlos Ortiz. I don't know that I'm going to play any of those guys in any other lineup. Instead, I got to take one here.
That's a good point. I would love to take 2 of tier 3 or even 2 of tier 6 over tier 4.
Yeah.
It's going to be hot there, so I would say root against Aaron Rye. His 2-glove method is going to, overheat him for the week.
He goes for the summer gloves. The people with really sweaty hands. They're basically like rain gloves, but they have some mesh on them. I guess. I don't.
He doesn't wear the ones like my mom that are cut off at the fingertips.
The ladies at the country club that I caddied at growing up used to wear those because it was the only way they could fit their gigantic diamond rings underneath the glove.
Oh, weird that my mom did not have that problem.
I don't think that was prevalent in Primgar, Iowa.
Yeah, or South Dakota.
Well, I'm just saying I worked there. I wasn't a member there. I just saying I worked there. Mm-hmm. Anyways, well, anything else, guys, on Mexico, or frankly, any other topics before we close it out? I know this was we'd actually talked more about the Mexico Open than I thought we would, given its anonymity. But anything else?
Nothing here. Good. Yeah.
All right.
Good week. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to playing here someday with you guys. That would be more fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
I'll be honest. I feel like if the first RGG trip is going to be in a spot maybe a little more iconic golf wise.
Yeah. My last thought would probably be, since I'm off the Aaron Wise bandwagon, somebody should probably take an outright on him this week, just in case. But it can't be me. So
put me down for a dollar, Kyle.
You probably should.
All around. Yeah.
All right. Well, that does it for this episode. We will be watching the Mexico Open this week. Again, join that listener league when you see it out there. Subscribe on YouTube. We really appreciate it. looking forward to having a good week here, and we will catch up with everyone with a recap in a week from now and keep moving on. See ya.